The rain hammered against the windows of my studio apartment, each drop a frantic tattoo mirroring the rising panic in my chest. It started with the notification, an anonymous delivery, a small, unmarked crate left on my doorstep at 3:17 a.m. No sender information, just a scrawled note, and a suspiciously generous discount code for curated collectibles. The package itself was heavy, solid rosewood, radiating a subtle chill. Curiosity, that insidious beast, gnawed at me. I hadn't ordered anything, but the promise of a unique find outweighed my apprehension. Inside, nestled in shredded velvet, sat a music box, simple yet undeniably unsettling. This wasn't a decorative piece, it felt ancient. A single, flickering street lamp cast long shadows across the room, intensifying the already oppressive atmosphere. This was going to be interesting. I wound the key. The music that emerged wasn't cheerful or innocent, it was profoundly sad. A slow, mournful waltz played on what sounded like a distant piano. Immediately, the lights in my apartment began to flicker, not dramatically, but with a precise, unsettling rhythm synced to the music box's melody. It wasn't power fluctuations, it felt intentional. Then, I noticed her reflection in the polished wood of the box. A young woman, dressed in a faded Victorian gown, stared back at me with eyes filled with an unbearable sorrow. Her expression was perfect mimicry of my own movements, but subtly distorted, as if she were just slightly out of focus. The room felt colder, denser, and a whisper brushed against my ear. "Join us." I checked the windows. All locked, no signs of forced entry. This wasn't possible. The flickering intensified. The woman's reflection grew clearer, more defined. She wasn't just mimicking me. She was interacting with the room. A small ceramic sculpture of a hummingbird, one-eyed painstakingly collected from an antique shop, tumbled from its shelf and shattered on the floor. I spun around, heart hammering against my ribs, but there was nothing there, only the oppressive silence broken by the incessant music box. Suddenly, a cold gust of wind swept through the apartment despite the sealed windows, carrying with it the faintest scent of lavender and decay. I grabbed for the music box, desperate to stop the tune, but as I touched it, the reflection smiled, a slow, deliberate expression that sent a shiver down my spine. It was like she had agency. The whispers escalated into distinct voices, murmuring around the edges of my hearing. They spoke in a language I didn't understand, yet somehow comprehended, a lament for lost love and unending sorrow. My vision blurred, flashes of images intruded, a grand ballroom bathed in candlelight, a young couple dancing, then one collapsing to the floor, clutching their chest. The woman's reflection was now completely dominant, her eyes burning with an unnatural intensity. I tried to leave the apartment, but the door wouldn't open. It was as if an invisible force held me captive. A pressure built in my head, and I realized that the music box wasn't just a source of sound. It was feeding something, her, from my own memories, amplifying my fear and despair. She stepped out of the reflection. Not a ghost, not a phantom, something more. The woman from the music box materialized fully in my living room, her Victorian gown shimmering with an ethereal light. Her movements were fluid and graceful, almost hypnotic. She reached for me, her hand brushing against my skin. It was ice cold. I instinctively recoiled, but she simply smiled wider, revealing teeth that seemed subtly off. The music box's melody surged to a crescendo, drowning out all other sound. I tried to scream, but no sound escaped my throat. She began to speak, her voice a melodic echo of the music itself. "You belong here now." I realized with a horrifying clarity that the discount code wasn't a sale, it was an invitation. I hadn't stumbled upon a curiosity. I had become part of a carefully orchestrated ritual. The walls of my apartment seemed to close in, the shadows deepening and twisting into grotesque shapes. The woman, I didn't even know her name anymore, advanced towards me, her eyes fixed on mine with an unsettling intensity. She lifted her hand, pointing directly at the music box. As she did, The room went black, and a single word echoed in my mind: forever. I awoke with a jolt, lying on the floor of my studio. The rain had stopped. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating the music box sitting squarely in the middle of my living room. But this time, it wasn't playing. As I reached for it, I noticed something else: a perfectly formed reflection of myself staring back from its polished surface. However, this reflection didn't mimic me. It was me, but older, sadder, and endlessly repeating the same sorrowful waltz. The woman in the gown wasn't gone. She had simply become another iteration of myself, trapped within the music box's endless cycle. I picked up the music box and wound it one last time. The melancholic tune filled the room, and as I listened, a single tear rolled down my cheek. A perfectly replicated tear of sorrow, echoing across centuries. Suddenly, I understood. The delivery wasn't an invitation to join a horror, it was a return. And now, trapped within the music's embrace, I would begin